Hello, everyone.
We're live. Hello.
We're about to start episode 3. Welcome.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Welcome back to the Authentic Souls podcast.
Welcome. This is Savannah Nicholson.
And this is Danielle Churchill. We remembered to do our intro this time. Last time we definitely forgot.
Yes.
We're getting better at this. Third episode.
Yes. Hopefully you weren't too confused on who was who. This is Savannah.
This is Danielle.
We're so glad to be here.
And we are actually someplace a little bit different this time, recording. We are in the mountains, Nevada City, California.
We're at my boyfriend's cabin, and it is pretty warm.
Mm-hmm.
Warmest part of the day, and we decided to record right now, but
we're sweating a little bit.
But we have
an amazing view, though. Can't complain. We are literally like in the middle of the forest.
Yes, it's so serene.
Yeah.
So zen. Danielle's feeling really grounded.
Yeah. Just Danielle, just me?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm showing up. That's what I'm doing
She's
today.
Here.
I'm here.
Both of us have been going through it a little bit. So the fact that we're even showing up, we're very proud of ourselves for.
Yes, we're here. We didn't show up exactly on the next Wednesday, but we're here. It's Cancer season. This is definitely the vibe.
Anyone else feeling the energy of Cancer season, or is it just us?
Feeling the emotions.
Yeah, the waves of emotion.
The tears are flowing.
How many times have you cried this week?
Oh my gosh. How about today? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm going through it right now. Danielle was going through it a little bit earlier this week. Luckily, we magically have this ability to simultaneously like switch off who's doing okay and who's needing the other person. So last episode, she was a little more in a vulnerable state, and I was kind of carrying the show, and this time I'm showing up, like I said. So how y'all doing?
How's everyone doing this Cancer season? No, I'm just curious, like everyone else's vibe, because it kind of sometimes feels like, are we the only ones that are like feeling these strong feelings?
I know
we're not.
This entire week I was saying, like, I've just feel like I'm having all of these triggers show up in my life that's just forcing me to up level, which is like what I want. And then today we were talking about it because I'm literally in situations where I'm like, I don't even know how to show up to this, when I usually have a pretty good idea of what the best way to show up is for the best outcome. And I just feel stuck in these really like low vibrational feelings, but I'm also not creating shame around it and just allowing it to be and just to flow through it, like Cancer season is all about.
And you have to ride the wave, right?
Yep. Ruled by the moon, and the moon rules our emotions. So all of this makes complete sense that we're all going through this. And if you can relate, no, that's just normal. That's just what this season is.
And I keep saying it's almost Leo season. So we're going to be back on our bullshit, back on our bad bitch energy before you know it. We just kind of wave a little bit, ride those emotions.
Yeah. Get these things sorted.
Yeah. Again, like you said, no shame. It's okay to feel those feelings. It's better to feel those feelings.
Yeah.
Don't shove them down. Don't pretend like they're not there. You need to do a good cry. I realized sometimes you just got to have a good cry. I'm not a big crier, but I've been crying and I always feel so much better afterwards. I'm like, oh shit, is this the answer?
Yeah. And I just read something. I was telling Danielle about something that I read about how tears have like a chemical makeup to them that basically aid in our healing. So crying is actually like a really healthy thing to do. And it's a part of your body's process and how it heals. So a lot of the times we want to like restrict ourselves from crying because we feel like it's a weak thing that shows our vulnerability, but in reality, it's something that our body really needs to do in a form of release. And that's why I feel so much better.
That's the big feeling. And last time we were talking about anxiety, and we were talking about the bean bags, and that's the analogy that sticks with me a little bit more. And when I was feeling like, I kept up feeling like there was beanbag after beanbag after beanbag, and then I cried, and I'm like it like released the weight of all of those things that were just like holding me back.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's been my lesson. There's been many lessons so far this Cancer season. How many days has it been? Only a couple. Lots of lessons already.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God, you're right. It only has been like 4 days.
Yeah.
You're like, it's almost Leo season. I'm like, you're trying to like get me out of my funk. You're like, you got this, girl, because my moon's in Leo and I should, I'll thrive then. But this is just in the depths of the feels. I'm usually comfortable here because I usually have like a logical path out of it, or like I know how to navigate this. But yeah, the feelings and the things, the triggers that I'm going through are just things that I just don't have answers to. I was telling Danielle, if you listen to last week's episode, it's kind of similar to like her dog, not similar by like situation, her dog attack, but just the energy of it, of like, there's, how do you show up to this? Because there's no,
like a situation that you don't have control over.
Mm-hmm.
How do you act when there's nothing that it's all out of your control?
Mm-hmm.
And really all you can control at that point is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's okay to just accept the feelings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time it is. Accept those feelings and realize that you're going to get past it.
You really just got to refocus on yourself. It always just comes back to you. That's what I'm realizing.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what my trigger was this past week, I had 3 fairly intense situations. And as much as I want to like dwell in it and like blame the person or like hyper analyze the situation and like get to the root of it, in all of the situations, just coming back to myself and focusing on myself and making sure I'm good and focusing on my self-care and nurturing myself is like how I feel better.
Well, and what else are you going to do? You can never control another person. You can't control circumstances. So it's all about your reaction. That's really the only thing that we can ever control. And what we've been kind of talking about as we've been going through these uncomfortable situations is coming back to the present. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, your brain kind of goes to all these, worst case scenarios, or it just goes and goes and goes and thinks of all of these possibilities. And in the end, all we can really do is come back to the present. It's the only thing that exists, mm-hmm. right? And being in this environment, being like in the woods, like you said, it's so grounding. And I feel like it's easier for me to practice presence. Mm. And it's a practice, mm-hmm. right? And we talked about that. When you get caught up in all the coulds and woulds and possibility land, you're really losing, you're forgetting how to be present. Mm-hmm. So even when you get to that, even if it's a good thing you're thinking about, even when you get to that thing that you thought you wanted or thought you didn't want or whatever, you haven't been practicing presence. So how are you going to be present in that moment? Mm-hmm. So it's a constant practice of like recalibrating, like what can I control? Myself, also nothing, mm-hmm. but I can control being present in this moment. Mm-hmm. And things are a little less scary because there's usually the present moment is much less tumultuous.
I mean, when it comes down to it, when you like strip away the comforts of society and the comforts of life that we are privileged to experience. And I think that's why having a spiritual awakening can be so jarring, because you understand like the truth of life. And we're all searching for these things outside of us when all we really need to be doing is finding presence in the current moment. And that's where like everything we're searching for is.
Mm. Yeah.
And so it's so interesting.
Nothing else exists.
Yeah.
But the present.
And that can be a really daunting realization to have when you're kind of going through your spiritual awakening, is that like, oh shit, all I've learned is to plan for the future. And then what our bodies kind of naturally do as humans is we look back on the past and we have this feeling of nostalgia and we can get really caught up in our emotions. And that can cause anxiety or depression and can kind of stagnate us. And what is the thing that gets you out of that is small moments of presence. It's just like, okay, I'm going to show up in this moment. I'm going to show up in this moment. And then you can retrain yourself to fully show up in your life. It feels really good when you come from a place of like, when you're not doing well, and then all of a sudden you can like fully show up for a day and you're like, wow, yeah, I did that. Mm-hmm. And then it's so interesting that on some level we start like chasing, like you said, past the presence. Mm-hmm. And then what happens when you like get to that manifestation that you were like working so hard for.
Yeah. How are you going to appreciate it? How are you going to be present with it if you never learned how to be present in the uncomfortable
If you've never
moments?
learned presence,
Yeah.
how are you going to be present with the manifestation?
Yeah.
You're not. You're going to just be chasing the next thing.
Exactly.
So, presence, y'all.
That's been a big lesson. It's such a simple concept, and it's like, oh yeah, duh. But sometimes you need that reminder because it's so simple, but it's also, it's hard. It's really hard, especially the way our minds work. We always have a tendency to kind of go to that future place and get really excited about like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? And so we can't get stuck in that. We can't get stuck in that world that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's nothing wrong with getting excited, but then getting excited and then coming back. Okay. What is happening right now? What is happening in front of me? So.
Well, and I guess I'll share my realization I had last night. If anyone's familiar with Phil Good on YouTube, he has great content.
Amazing.
And is constantly awaking us to like new areas of our own spiritual consciousness that we weren't aware of. And so basically he was talking about presence. So this kind of, does this even really relate to presence? I'm not quite sure. But basically the pings of intuition.
It's like how it relates to intuition, how it relates to manifestation. Yeah.
So I'll try and explain this the best I can. He was saying that basically when you get like a ping or this intuitive vision, and Danielle and I can both understand this, and I think as a collective and as a human species, we're all trying to understand ourselves and understand the metaphysics and like the psyche and the telepathy and the energy reading and all these other parts of us that we aren't tuned into, and there's nowhere, like our society doesn't,
there's no space for it.
Doesn't hold space for those things. So we're all just kind of trial and error figuring this out. And one of the things with Danielle and I, with our, like, we call it our equation of manifestation or whatever else you want to call it. When we would get the intuitive ping, we would be like, oh, that thing that we feel that feels so aligning and so correct for us is that ping is a signal that we're going to get that one day.
Or if you focus on it enough, we're going to be able to manifest it just by focusing and feeling and embodying it.
And embodying
without anything else. That's all we have to do is think about
taking
it, feel
action.
on it.
But it just was, we were kind of just like showing up and taking action in whatever moment felt correct, which we still think is very important to do. Like in your just day-to-day lives, and when you're just flowing with life, show up to what feels correct and do that. But when you get an intuitive ping to do something, when you get a vision, that is a signal to you that you are now at the frequency of achieving that thing. So that doesn't mean it's on its way without the work.
Yeah.
And that was like this next puzzle piece that finally clicked in for me and us, is when you get that intuitive ping and you get that vision, all that is a signal to you that like, oh, you're now at that frequency of achieving that thing. Before it was like this feeling of like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? But you know, when you get that like super excited, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. Or you get that like intuitive vision of like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. And I'm so excited. And I just have to hold the vision and hold true to it. And with like traditional manifestation, I think a lot of teachers taught about holding like the thoughts form. Hold it in your mind's eye. Visualize.
Yeah.
And now people are really practicing like embody the feeling. So what does it feel like when you've achieved that thing and to have it? And now this next realization that Feel Good is integrated is like, when you get that feeling, when you're embodying it, that is now a signal to show up and go do the thing. You need to
take that action step. Yeah. And I think, isn't it full moon in Capricorn
100%.
And so we're kind of navigating this like
wow.
feel the feels of Cancer, right?
Wow.
But then also we've talked about how flowy we are as humans.
Mm-hmm.
How do we integrate the structure? How do we integrate that Capricorn energy? I got a little bit of Capricorn in me. I know it's in there.
Mm-hmm. The workhorse.
So that's the work. That's
they're
where
not a horse, but basically that's the energy. Is
yeah.
Like they just
go.
They're good at to-do lists.
Mm-hmm.
They feel fulfilled
organized
when they are working.
Mm-hmm.
They're an earth energy. They're stable. That's Danielle's rising sign. So that's how she like comes off, which 100% I would agree with that. So yeah, that's so funny that is like the energy of that realization that I had.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, when you have that intuitive ping, like, yes, that mean like, it doesn't just mean that you're going to get it one day, because that's always kind of, that's so entitled of us.
Yeah.
I mean, rightfully so. It's, we're just learning and figuring it out, but it's kind of funny to think like, oh, I had a vision and now I'm going to get it.
Well, and there's this fine line between like, oh, I deserve this. And like, of course, like we all deserve to have like live our best lives, but there can be a tinge of entitlement in that, like, well, this is what I deserve. But it's also so good to be like, but this is what I fucking deserve. I don't know if that makes sense. A little side note in there, but
yeah, no. And I think I think that feeling of deserving, like you have to show up to that with action. Like, I think that just is like worthiness,
Yeah.
Like I am worthy of this thing.
Entitlement versus worthiness. Yeah. There's a difference there.
Without questioning your worthiness. You don't question that you're not good enough to do this thing.
And that's when you're saying you've hit that frequency, that means that you are worthy enough, right?
You see, well, basically it's like, okay, so you're listening to a podcast and you hear someone talk about how they've achieved this thing and it lights a fire within you. And rather than being jealous, you kind of get this like intuitive ping of like, oh, I'm going to do that one day. I want to do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And rather than just trusting you're going to do it one day and it's going to happen and just like, it's just going to fall out of the sky. Because I think that's why manifestation is so confusing and frustrating for a lot of people, is because they're like, where's the action involved?
Yeah.
But a lot of it, before you can take action, you have to feel worthy of those big action steps. And that's why it feels like they manifest these miracles, but really they're just showing up in really big ways because they know their worth.
They have the confidence. They know it's possible. They're energetically there and able to make it happen with the steps possible. And like you were saying, like a lot of times these pings come from seeing other people do it, from seeing a person do something, and that can spark something in you like, oh shit. And I think in these darker moments when we're not vibrating at, when we're not super high vibe or at our most high vibe, it's so easy to get into the comparison game. Like you said, get into the jealousy game. And instead of turning that around and saying, oh shit, they did it, that means I can too. And I know it's like a murky. It's something, it can be really hard to navigate unless you're really feeling like your best self. And that's not always the case.
You have to be like really aligned and like fully taken care of and feeling really nourished by yourself, and really like your self-love tank has to be really full to be able to alchemize all of those uncomfortable feelings. And basically alchemizing is just like moving through one uncomfy emotion, or for me, I really use alchemy with emotions. So like if you're feeling jealousy, immense jealousy, that's because, what was the analogy? Basically the explanation of that earlier today from Stevie.
It means it's sparking something in you that you want that thing. So instead of getting mad about it, just step back and recognize there's something that this person is doing that I want. So what do I need to do to make that happen? Instead of looking at them and like comparison, oh, well, they have this, so that's why I don't have that. We're kind of getting into that victim mode, which is so easy to do, by the way. I'm not saying
I'm like in it right now.
Yeah. I want to like say like, it's not like we're like, oh, like, we don't do that, because we never do that. Like we do that shit all the time. And it's the realization of having to pull ourselves out of that and be like, wait a minute, what if we can look at this person, look at their experiences and be like, there's something there that I want. So let me explore that further. Let me give love to them. Be like, oh shit, they're doing it. That's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at it in your life. Be like, okay, if this is the thing I want, what do I do to make it happen?
Well, and the alchemy process is like going from jealousy to love, which is like so
easier said than done.
Your ego wants to shut it down so quickly. That's like the most opposite thing.
Yeah.
Is like, no, fuck this bitch. I don't want to love her or the situation or whatever's going on. Like, no, my jealousy and my comparison is at full force, 100%. And the most annoying thing is that the antidote for that is love. And that is the last thing you want to do is love the situation, but you got to. Because like Danielle said, it's a teacher. It's a pinpoint of your soul telling you that, hey, you want that too.
Yeah.
And
chances are you're going to get it a lot faster if you can get to the point where you're excited for them.
And what's the Casey Musgraves lyric I just heard this morning?
I don't know.
Oh yeah. I'm real in my fields, you guys. Listen to Casey Musgraves. Basically pouring salt in my sugar isn't going to make yours any sweeter.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
Casey, thank you for that.
That's a good one.
And that is basically my vibe, is like Little Miss Sourpuss. And I want everyone to know about whatever situation I'm going through. And
it feels good to bring other people down to your level when you're feeling like that. It's like, oh, I'm justified in this, right? This way.
Tell me validate me. I'm justified in this. And it's like, yes, that's understandable. But guess what? You're the only one who's going to get yourself out of that. So might as well.
It comes back to that control. What can you control? Who can you control? Nothing but yourself. So how are you going to react? That's the only thing you can control.
And you might as well come back to presence as quickly as possible, because that's the answer. It's like in this exact moment, you can fantasize and dream up all these other realities of like situations that could be going down. But the only true reality is the present moment that you're in. And the only way it's going to change is if you take action towards the intuitive pings of what to do next.
Oh, shit.
Mic drop.
Okay, that's it. Okay, bye. No. So that's where our brain has been the last few days. Hopefully that resonated with some of you. Because this shit is hard. Life is hard. Situation, working through these uncomfy feelings is hard.
Yeah. Being in the mountains is good, though. We'll get grounded and spend some time. We've had, it's just, I think we were talking about like the collective energy is just like a little denser right now. Like we all kind of, like with us traveling up north, like we traveled 4 hours from Santa Cruz to Nevada City, and it was,
I think six.
Yeah.
But like bumper to bumper traffic for most of the way.
On a Thursday at 3 p.m. Like, it shouldn't have been like that. And so I was like, oh my God, I can't imagine what it's like on like a Friday or Saturday. That's going to be insane.
There's so much going on right now with everything reopening, and just everyone's also going through it. So there's this mixture of like everyone's out in the world, but everyone's feeling the feels. And so it's like, yeah, like you said, that it's very, what did you say? It's very dense. Very dense right now. Yeah. So something to be aware of, if you have an experience with someone who acts a certain way, like don't take it personally right now, because we're all kind of, we're all kind of living our own little journeys right now. And it certainly ain't easy.
Yeah. I had two like just really intense experiences where my presence alone disrupted these humans, and there was nothing I could do about it. I did nothing. It was weird. And these are the things that I was talking about where it's like, it's not comparable, because Danielle's are like even more intense when she got attacked by the dog, but it just the situations where you get in where you're like, how could I have gone up differently to this to make sure this didn't happen? But the weird thing is there's nothing you could have done differently. I did nothing wrong. Danielle did nothing wrong, but the situation happened. Yeah. And it was really uncomfortable. And I had two fairly similar ones back to back. And they both related to me literally just existing. and one of them had to do with masks and whatever. I'll just tell it. I don't fucking care. I'll tell that one.
Yeah.
That one's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. We were at a grocery store and
in Santa Cruz, by the way.
in
I don't know
Santa
if that makes a
Cruz
difference.
at New Leaf. It doesn't, none of that really matters. But in regards to the mask wearing, all of that, like, this is not a political podcast. We're not here to push any of our opinions. It's the last thing we're trying to do. But in this situation, my personal opinion and my personal choice for walking into the store was, or for any establishment, is if the employees and if the store's policies, like, you don't have to wear your mask, and if the employees are stoked about it and they're happy not wearing their masks, then I'm like, oh, okay, Danielle and I are both vaccinated.
Yeah.
Then this is safe. At least I feel safe and I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And Danielle's still at the point where she wears her mask a little bit more than me, but like neither of us are commenting on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's a personal choice. Yeah.
It's
like, what do you feel comfortable with?
Whatever.
Yeah.
And causing conflict, like, why would you do that? So anyway, so we're at a grocery store, we're buying stuff for dinner, and I went to go over to like the lettuces and I go to grab a head of cabbage. And this woman leans back at me, like leans away from me so dramatically, like I'm just so highly
invading her space,
highly contagious, like the drama involved. And I was just like, oh, like it just threw me off because it made me, I mean, to be completely honest, it made me feel like, someone during like the heart of the pandemic who was like preaching to everyone in the store, like, I don't have to wear my mask. Like, it made me feel like one of those people because I was like, no, I feel like I'm being highly aware and respectful,
yeah,
and making like a conscious decision of like, okay, it's appropriate time to like not have to wear a mask anymore because I've taken all the appropriate steps. So anyway, I was just really thrown off that this woman was being like so dramatic towards me, and I was like, oh shit. And I had walked in with my mask on my wrist in case I needed to put it on, in case people were like I said, if the employees wear the mask, I feel like I should wear it so they feel safe at work. And so I had it on my wrist just in case, but they weren't wearing it. So I was like, stoked. I'm going to just keep it on and keep shopping. And she made this comment under her breath as she was turning away from me and says, if you wore it in the store, you could have just kept it on. And she didn't want me to comment. It wasn't directed. It was directed. I don't know if it was.
She wanted to be able to get away with it. She wanted to be like sassy, but like there's nothing you can say about it.
And this isn't like an older woman Karen vibe. Like this is like.
And that's why I say it's in Santa Cruz. Like Santa Cruz is super fucking chill. Like she's like this little skater girl. Like
yeah, she's like in her 20s. She's like our age.
Yeah. And
I was just so thrown off. And I've done so much just personal work and standing up for myself. And I was just like, no. I am aware that I could stay present and passive. And in this situation, I felt safe and I felt like it was appropriate because she just felt like a peer who felt like she had the right to police me. And I was like, no, this is not how we're going to behave because I'm doing nothing wrong. So she made this comment and like turns her back to me and like glares. And I made sure to like step to her side so she saw my face. And I looked at her and I answered her statement. And I said, because I don't have to. I wasn't confrontational. I just literally looked at her so she was aware that you can't get away with just saying shit and expecting the energy not to be reciprocated back to you.
Yeah.
You can't just walk around being a bitch and expect someone else to not be a bitch right back to you.
Yeah.
So unfortunately or fortunately, I was her exact mirror and I was like, hi, if you're going to get in my face, I'll get in yours. And I'm not going to do it in a confronting way, but I'll just answer your statement that you decided to say towards me in a really condescending and loud, abrasive way. So then she was so thrown off that I said something, and this is like a, wealthy Santa Cruz 20-year-old girl. She's probably not used to getting in confrontations. She doesn't know what to do. And it wasn't even a confrontation. It's just like, bitch, shut up.
And if you have something to say, just say it and don't be like,
or just don't. I was telling Danielle after I was like reflecting on it, like, would I ever do that? But the thing is, like, maybe I'd say something to a friend, like, oh, when you're reflecting on a moment, like, oh, did you see that person? But I would never say it to their face, or I would never go up and say something passive aggressively under my breath. So anyway, she was so overwhelmed, didn't know what to do, that her instinct was to flick her kale at me. The kale.
Such a fucking like privileged white woman thing to do. I'm gonna flick my kale.
She flicks her kale that was freshly watered. So I'm getting sprinkled with all her kale water. And I'm just standing there like, what? And she's trying to like shoo me away. Like that's the energy. Like, no, go away. Stop it.
Out of my space.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, but you don't understand. You entered my space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just intense dynamics out there. And then
these are kind of the vibes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a lot.
Don't take anything personally. That's what we're saying. If someone flicks their kale at you, just know it's not your problem.
If you get their kale water on you, that's not yours. Just wipe it off and hand the dirty rag right back to them. But yeah, I just had to empathize with her because in reality, she's probably just like really fearful, which I understand because we're in such like an unknown time and no one knows what to believe.
Yeah.
Apparently there's like a second variant and no, everyone's trying to take the appropriate precautions. And so I understand she's frustrated and she's fearful, but hopefully
there's ways to handle these things.
Yeah. Hopefully she's reflecting and like, oh, maybe I should like order my groceries so I don't have to go to the store, which.
Yeah. Just finding like empathy in that moment, knowing that, you can't take anything personally when someone kind of lashes out like that because it's stemming from something going on with them.
And Danielle's so good at being like so hyper present. Like she can, I don't even know if that's the right way to.
I hate confrontation with every fiber of my being. Yeah. And if there's any confrontation, any sniff, any hint of confrontation, I'm like, nope. Mm-hmm. Avoiding eye contact, moving on.
She's done.
So that's how I am in those situations.
But And I think, like obviously that can lead towards like avoidance, but also like I think it can be such a blessing in moments of confrontation because you have a moment of pause and like this like chill out moment. So then I had like a second experience, it was yesterday, and there was no winning in that situation. This was like a very different situation, had to do with race and
more intense.
Yeah. And it was something where I realized like if I went up and tried to speak my truth and like fix the situation, I was only going to be doing more damage. And literally my presence as a white woman was so triggering. And like, it's something that I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate because it's not me trying to victimize myself in the situation. It's just something that happened. And
just understanding the dynamics that a situation like that presents.
Yeah.
And again, holding empathy, not taking anything personally. Just see all sides of these things.
I literally had where like I felt like I was being seen as like demonized 50-year-old white woman Karen. And that was so weird because they both were entitled to feel whatever judgments they felt towards me just based on appearance and energy. And I guess it just makes me more self-aware of like how dense the energies are out there. And I think
it's very polarizing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't even know how to go about that. I mean, we all know that the Black Lives Matter movement last year was like so unbelievably important and necessary and has brought to light so many just nuances within our country that are so dark and icky and gross. And I can't blame this woman for feeling a certain way towards me because I'm like, fuck. Shit, I don't know a lick of your experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to pretend to.
And you want to like explain like I'm on your side, but at the same time, it's like, that's not really going to solve anything.
No.
It's not going to solve anything.
Whatever. Okay, let's tell this situation. I mean, like, I'm just going to be honest. I feel weird talking about it, but you just got to talk about the weird shit. So
yeah,
basically we went to a restaurant and I love children. We've talked about this before on the podcast. I am in love with children and I will admire any child. And this little girl was getting soda, and I was just admiring her and how adorable she was. And her mom got really upset that I was looking at her child and took it in a negative connotation.
And in this situation, we were both wearing masks. So it's also,
Mhm.
I think, harder to get a feel for someone's vibe when you can't see their whole face.
Yeah.
So things might seem
I couldn't smile
more
at her and let her
menacing,
know
yeah.
that, like, oh, I'm like literally admiring how adorable your daughter is. And instead, her instinct is, rightfully so, is to think her daughter's at risk. And that just,
it's heartbreaking.
yeah, it was a really real, unfortunate truth.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's no, and that's when like the white savior complex kind of kicks in and you're like, oh, what can I do and say to fix this? Nothing.
Yeah.
All you can do is remove yourself from the situation. I'm aware that like I didn't do anything, but I also give her full grace, and my heart breaks for her, that she feel that's the emotion.
That's the reaction, the immediate reaction.
That's the survival mechanism that's kicked into place. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. That is how she should react.
Yeah.
Because who knows her other life experiences and what she's experienced with other white women and looking at her children, which is so beyond disgusting.
Yeah.
But guess what? I'm white.
That shit's real. Yeah, it really gave us a unique opportunity to really just, I mean, we were raised in, well, at least I was, I'll speak for myself. I was raised in a very predominantly white community. So I have been super oblivious to these real ass issues. And, as it's come to light with everyone, like it's really forced me to take a look at these things. And so having these experiences, just like, whoa, it like opens me up to even more of like, holy shit. Like this is so much more than I ever knew. And I feel so ignorant saying that, but it like, at least, these situations give us the opportunity. We talked about it for a while, just all the different dynamics and having so much empathy and love for her and like understanding like, this is just a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Like no one's in the wrong. Like,
and the best thing I could have done, which is what I did, was just get our burritos and go, me trying to fix it is not going to help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, as Daniela said, being comfortable in the uncomfortable, that's the new vibe of life. It's like we have put up this collective facade for society of like, oh, comfy, just make life really comfortable, and you'll just like forget about all the shit underneath,
all the real shit.
Yeah. And then we start questioning things, and we start really looking at things objectively. And, now we're in this like wave of a new generation coming to light with Gen Z, and people being even more open-minded and even more just, they're not going to put up with bullshit. None of us are.
Yeah.
There's just this collective awakening to the trauma we've all been through and inflicted on other people.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, just not having personal shame in that, because I have not inflicted anything, but just really understanding white privilege and how it's like really never not going to be a thing until it's fully addressed. Yeah. So we can all ignore it as much as we want, but it's there. It's there. It's
ingrained in our society. It's impossible to escape.
And it's ingrained in us to defend it because, well, as a white person and with the white people I've experienced who want to defend like that white privilege isn't a thing, it's because they benefit from it, right? So
they're on the winning side.
They don't want to look at the dark, evil truths of how this country came to be and the insane entitlement behind that. And just like, yeah, the energy of colonialism, like it's kind of barbaric. Like just coming in and taking over land and thinking it's yours, even though someone else was there, and committing genocide, having just like zero, like, did people have shame and guilt about that? You know, like,
how can you not?
How can you not? How can you do that?
Yeah.
How barbaric. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, how inhumane. I don't have words. And there's still so many things going on in the world that are so inhumane.
Yeah.
So it's like, why should we be surprised that things aren't fucking perfect yet?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, growing up, I think we're fed this illusion that all that stuff happened like so long ago. Like we've moved past that. Like it's not even around anymore. And you just realize like that did not happen like that long ago. Like how could we possibly collectively be completely healed from that?
No.
Like that's not possible.
It hasn't even been addressed.
Yeah,
We're not even addressing it.
Exactly.
And it's like, I'm not like super familiar, but I am aware that in Germany, they talk about the Holocaust and the genocide that happened there, and just teach it so truthfully, without a veil, without a biased narrative. They're like, these are the facts. This is what happened. This is fucked. And this will never happen again.
Yeah.
And we don't teach our history like that.
Yeah.
It's like, there's still this entitlement to what we did and that it's okay.
Or like sweeping it under the rug. Like, oh, like they're not going to notice if we just like don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's some real shit right there.
Yeah. I mean, oh man. But that's the thing. We have the privilege of escaping it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're white, you get to escape it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to fall back into your comfortable pattern of whatever coping mechanism you are granted because you're white.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case for everyone.
Yeah.
So, and that's when like understanding how much responsibility comes with privilege, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel hopefully people, and I say this, but like hopefully people see and understand, and through this podcast especially, how much you and I are trying to show up to the world and help.
Yeah.
And a part of that is like having the freedom and the space to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Because there is so much just like stupid fucking content that people consume that is not soul giving, that is not going to evolve you further. It's just going to stagnate you and make you dumber and make you less connected to yourself. So for us, like, our mission right now is hopefully we're doing that, is to create content that makes you feel connected and makes your soul feel fed and makes you feel seen. And so that's what we're hoping to do with our privilege.
Yeah. And like have these hard conversations, because like I said, this is all so new, at least for me, is to like really sit and like talk about these things. And I mean, I don't know how much they can help, but hopefully, like you said, by sharing them, other people can connect with that. Other people can feel like we can be open about these things. They don't have to be icky. They don't have to be uncomfortable. Like, even if we don't have any of the answers, like we can just talk about it and have an open dialogue and not feel shame or any of those other emotions around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's 100% like a white person's issue. Like, this isn't some, like, if it makes you feel icky, it's something that you really need to go dive, within and reflect on, and kind of just have this awareness your entire life, and how maybe you have this like privilege filter on, and you're not aware of how you come off to the world, or how you are granted more privileges than others, and how you could be using that for a lot more good than you actually are showing up. And maybe that's like financially, you could be donating to, maybe you spend your money in more frivolous ways than you could be doing it in more like intentional ways towards charities that you feel really passionate about, or I'm not sure, or like small businesses, focusing on like sustainability or
whatever feels the most
whatever feels aligning to you. Yeah. but just making sure you're showing up and using that time and space and energy that you've been granted for good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just like dedicate my life even more to that principle, you know, like whatever I can do to assist in the global healing and evolution, you know, it's like, that's the only thing that feels correct. I can't just like sit back and like try and enjoy a fluffy, comfortable life anymore, knowing all the shit I know.
Yeah, and hope it all just kind of like works out.
Yeah. Hopefully it can work out like without me getting involved. Like, and guess what? That's my privilege talking because I have the choice to not get involved.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Just sit in the density of all of that energy.
Cancer season.
It's like a wave. We're just in that tidal wave.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the calm
Shore.
Yeah. For it to like rush out back to sea.
And there's a lot of surrender that goes with that. Like whenever I picture being in a situation that feels like you're just like being controlled by something like Mother Nature, where it's like you're completely out of control. Like the thing that always pops up is like surrender. Like if you can't fight it, right? You're never going to win. You're never going to be able to fight against a wave that's like taking you. Really all you can do in that moment is just surrender to it. If that helps anyone. Again, easier said than done.
No, yeah.
But that's like what I go back to in those moments of like overwhelm or just feeling out of control. I'm like, just surrender to it because it's the wave's going to pass. You're going to be back on shore. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through it. Yeah.
All feelings will pass. They don't feel like it in the moment, but it's a fact.
Yep.
No feeling has lasted forever. It's an anomaly. Well,
we love you guys.
What a deep topic. Yeah, we
love you.
Sending
so much love. If any of you guys are experiencing any of this, sending so much love. Hopefully you're giving yourself grace. Hopefully you're giving grace to others that are also having a hard time right now.
If you relate to this at all, like we would love for you to connect with us on Instagram and DM us, and we could start more conversations around these things and these topics because, and don't be afraid. Like there's no shame here. There's no judgment. Like we want to figure this out. And we want to go through this together and we want to
connect.
Yeah, we want to connect. We want to feel together and
build a community. Yeah.
If you can relate or like want to continue that conversation, or if you have anything to add to what we said or can shine light on anything that we are struggling with, like I said, we're not sitting up here thinking we know anything. Like we're just sharing our experience and hoping you can relate.
Yeah.
And trying to give you some like real content rather than curated fluff that makes you feel bad about yourself because you're like, oh, my life's not perfect like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel real. I must not be good enough. It's like, no, you are good enough. That's actually not real. That's a fantasy. And that was created for your entertainment, which is fun. And it's fun to like to partake in those moments here and there mindfully. But at the same time, I think we're all, like I said, going through a collective awakening and really needing the connection.
The more people that are kind of doing this work together and the more we can connect and build together, the more that's going to happen. Like you said, like we can't do this alone.
Yeah.
We're just putting ourselves out there because we know that there are other people that feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah. We
know other people are doing the work. We know. Yeah. So if we can connect and if we can, even help along the way for people that don't really have the answer to something that maybe we do in a certain circumstance, then that's best case scenario for us.
Well, that's episode 3.
Episode 3.
Feels pretty good. Just keep going with the flow, you guys. We love you.
Surrender.
Yeah, whatever you're going through. If you're going through something amazing right now, hell yeah.
We fucking celebrate the shit out of you.
That's so exciting for your evolution and your growth. And yeah.
if you're riding that fucking cancer wave instead of getting like instead of drowning by the cancer wave, hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah. I admire you. I see you. I respect you. All the cancers out there are probably so comfortable with this energy. They're just
welcome
chilling.
to my world.
They're like, welcome. This is what I deal with all the time. Well, feel your feels, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. We're live. I forgot. Okay, bye. Bye, everyone.